Right, let's talk about magic masks while Alex is...
No, wait a minute.
This is my bit. You go put the kettle on,
I'll go
and
put the kettle on.
we'll go out after. Just, yeah.
Coffee?
So yes, magic masks have had a bit of an upgrade. Thanks to DaVinci Resolve Studio 20, that's the paid version, we now have Magic Masks 2. And they're smarter than ever, making light work of this doggo, even tracking this lady through horrible conditions, doing an impossibly good job of this red rag, even tracking stuff behind other stuff. Use them to blur faces, do some selective color grading, or even you can use them for doing some special effects, some cloning, even put in text behind people or objects just like this. The only downside, they're slower than the previous magic masks. Fortunately, I'm running everything on this 3XS system from scan.co.uk, which is being powered by the latest Nvidia RTX 5070 Ti GPU.
Nice cup of coffee
Ooh,
for you, mate.
thanks mate.
Enjoy.
Yeah, I'll have a coffee.
I'll just chill.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Forgot where I was. Oh yeah. Nvidia have gone big on AI processing for these new 50 series of GPUs, which all help to accelerate the AI-based effects within DaVinci Resolve Studio, like the AI subtitles, the new AI voice clones, and of course, the new and improved magic masks. You've probably heard of devices having 50 tops of AI performance, maybe even 100 tops of AI performance, while this Nvidia 5070 Ti has 1,406 tops for all of your AI goodness. You can check out the line of Nvidia GPUs available right now from scan.co.uk by simply clicking on the link down in the description below. Right, let's jump in real quick, take a look at the basics, and then... Dude. Turn that back on. Thank you. What was I saying? Right, basics first, and then we'll have a play with some fun examples. Right, yes, I'm ready. Let's go. So here we are on the color page. Now the first thing you need to do is of course jump over to the Magic Masks panel, which is this icon here from the little toolbar right in the middle. Give that a click and you'll see your Magic Mask controls down here. Now the first things that I recommend you do, first of all, click on this little icon to toggle on the mask overlay. We'll come back to that in a second. And then underneath your preview window, click this drop down and make sure you have your qualifier enabled. It should be on by default, but it's just worth double checking. Next, what we need to do is pick a reference frame. This is the frame where we're going to tell DaVinci Resolve what it is that we want to track. So you want a good shot of your subject, nicely in focus, not being too obscured, all that sort of thing. So I'm going to go with something like that. Then what I recommend you do is pick whether you want a faster track or a better track. I generally go with better. Once you've selected that, all you need to do is to start clicking on your subject. So I'm going to click on his hair for starters, and you will see that it will highlight his hair in red. Now we're seeing this red overlay because we enabled our overlay control. So that's why I recommend you do that at the beginning. Now, if we only wanted to track his hair for our magic mask, we could just start tracking, but we want more. So we want his face next. So we'll click on his face. Perfect. And then we want this jacket or coat, t-shirt, I don't know what this is. We'll click on this to include this. And then let's also click on his torso. And it's picked up his entire body like so. Now, just on the off chance we didn't want his trousers, if you hold the Alt key or Option, you'll notice the cursor will change from a positive to a negative. We can then click on the things we want to remove from the mask. So now this would only track his upper body, all the things we selected, but not his lower body because we added this red dot. If we then wanted his shoes, just not his trousers, we could click on his shoes and it'll pick up his shoes, ignore his trousers, and do the rest of the body too. You can see all of your clicks down here on these tracks, and if we hover over each track, you will see them get highlighted within the preview screen. I'm actually going to get rid of these last two because I don't want them. We want to track everything. We'll do maybe another click on the shoe just to make sure, and there we go. So once you've selected everything, you can then start tracking. So down here, these are your tracking controls, and the main ones you'll look at is this one, which will track forwards, this one, which will track backwards, or this one, which will track forwards and reverse. So let's give that a click, and it's just going to track our subject throughout our frame like so. And you'll see it's done a pretty good job of this guy, even though he's flipping around, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. If we want to then turn our overlay off, we click on the icon once again, and then from here, we can start to make any color grading changes. So anything we change within the color page now will only be affecting anything within our magic mask. If we want to reverse that, so select everything outside of the mask, you can do this in one of two ways. You can click on this icon, which will invert the mask. So now everything outside of the mask is being selected. Alternatively, probably the better way, is right click on your node, come to add node, and then add an outside node. That will give you a second node up here. This is an outside node, which kind of does what it says on the tin. This will be selecting everything outside of the magic mask. So now we can control the background with this node and the foreground, our main subject, whatever you want to call it, with this node. Now, if you wanted to remove the background entirely, let me just delete this outside node. If you right click within the nodes in an empty space and then you add an alpha output, that'll give you a little blue dot down here in the bottom right hand corner. Grab this blue square, drag it to the blue dot, and that will then remove the background, giving just our subject like this. And you can see overall, it's not done too bad of a job at all. Now for this guy I demonstrated in the intro, I didn't do anything special whatsoever. All I did was pick a frame when he's nicely in view, like this one. We'll give him a couple of clicks. Click his bike as well, so we've got everything like so. Switch it to better, hit track, and it's going to keep track of him even when he goes behind rocks, trees, and whatever else. Now I've already done the same thing with this guy right here. Now if we zoom in, we can have a little look at how this is done. It's done a pretty good job. If you need to refine the mask, there are a bunch of refine controls down here. And the main ones I use are this shrink and grow. So if we leave it as shrink and then increase the radius, it will shrink the mask down. If we change that to grow and then do radius, it will grow the mask outwards. You've then got a little bit of smoothing to smooth the mask. We can blur the edges with a blur radius. And then we've got clean black and clean white. So if we increase clean black, it will basically bring the outside, the black, the non-selected areas in. And if we clean white, it'll take the inside, the tracked areas out. So it's very similar to the grow and shrink, but as you do it, it's also adding a little bit of softness. So it's kind of blurring the edges a little bit. So you can just refine the mask like so. Now, all those examples are generally working pretty well. So what happens with a particularly difficult track when things aren't quite playing ball? So we've got this example here. And again, this is a very, very difficult thing to track because what we want to do is track the cloth here. So we're going to go to better. We've got our overlay turned on. We'll pick a reference frame. Kind of won't matter too much with this. Let's try here. We'll give this a click. And this one over here, and this down here. Now, it's already done a good job of kind of roughly figuring out what we want. Because I know this is going to be difficult, I'm also going to hold Alt or Option, click the fingers just to make sure that it knows I don't want those, and this hand over here. Trying to give it kind of the best opportunity to do a good job. And then we'll track this through. And overall, it looks like it's done a good job. It's kind of hard to tell with that overlay being red, but let's make this really blue. And as you can see, it's actually done a surprisingly good job once again, but there are some bits we can fix. So let's come over to here, and it starts to grab his hand. It randomly just jumps over to his hand. Now, what you need to pay attention to is your reference frame. So you can see these little dots right here. You can also jump to your reference frame by clicking on this little icon. You need to work outside of the reference frame. So I'm starting here from the reference frame. I'm going to move left to find the first frame where it grabs his hand, which is there. Then we're going to hold Alt, give that a click just to remind it not to try and grab his hand. And this might not be able to do it because it's really fine. By adding those additional dots, our track going to the right is all good, but we need to retrack to our left. So then we're going to click on our track reverse. And now it's going to continue tracking, and it's realized we don't want that hand, so it's done a much better job. If we go this way and try and find a point where it goes a bit wrong, kind of doesn't really. Let's say it picked up his fingers over here. We would hold Alt, click on his hand. Once again, that would ruin the track from the right-hand side now because we are to the right of our reference frame. So then we would need to track forwards. And there we go. Next up, let's talk about this control here, Smart Refine. Now you only see this when you're on the better mode and not the faster mode. Now what Smart Refine is doing is trying to refine the edge of your mask. Generally, on the default settings, it will work pretty well. But what it can do is cause flickering, pick up reflections, and cause bleeding around shadows. So as you can see here, the edge of his fingers are being picked up because it thinks the shadow is part of the actual cloth, the mask. So it's causing a bit of bleeding as we go around here. Now, if we were to increase this Smart Refine, which can be a bit slow if you do after you've already done your mask, you'll see we'll get even more bleeding coming in like so. If we knock this all the way down, however, because in this instance, we don't want any of that bleed, we don't want the shadow, we want a nice, refined, hard mask. It's got rid of those areas, giving us a much cleaner mask. You will then need to retrack if you ever change the Smart Refine, so let's just do that. Now let's just do our alpha output so we can see what's going on. And this has given us a really clean, sharp-edged mask without any of those shadows. Another great example of Smart Refine actually making things worse, even though, as mentioned, it is generally pretty good, is on glasses with things like reflections. So we're going to jump to better. We're going to click on the glasses because this is what we want. I've already set my alpha output, and straight away you can see we've got some transparency going on because it's not too sure what to do about the shadows and the reflections. So it's kind of half getting them, half not. This would maybe work for some grading, but if we want a mask like this is going to cause us problems. If we were to track this, you would see we'd get this flickering because again, the shadows are moving, it's not quite sure what to do. If we simply knock this Smart Refine all the way down and then track once again, and straight away, we've got a much cleaner mask. It's not struggling with the shadows or the reflections, it's just ignoring them entirely, which in this example is perfect. Now, the last thing I want to touch upon if your mask isn't quite right are the new paintbrush tools. So I've done my best here to get a nice track of this lady. I don't want her neck, her top or anything, we just want her face and her hair. And no matter what I do, I can't get rid of her neck because it's just getting confused and it thinks the neck is part of the face, even though I've tried to get rid of it a few times. This is where the new paintbrush tools come in. So within the Magic Mask controls, you've got this paintbrush with a plus, this paintbrush with a minus. So if we click on the negative one, the subtract, then come over our screen like so, you see we get this little green circle. This is our paintbrush. We can change the size of our paintbrush by clicking on this little drop down. And then as we change it, you can see it change in the preview window. And then we can paint things out. So I can start to paint this neck out just like so. I'm doing a terrible job. You'd zoom in and make this better, but you get the idea. Now this is a frame by frame tool and it doesn't actually affect your automatic mask / track. So if I use my left and right arrow keys, we can start to go back a couple of frames. The neck's in this frame, so we'll scribble that out. It's in this one, scribble it out. You get the idea. You go through frame by frame. You can make any amendments to the mask with your paintbrush on that specific frame. If you want to do the opposite and include things in the mask because they hadn't been picked up, you change your brush to the add paintbrush, then anything you scribble will be then included. Again, just to reiterate, this is a frame by frame tool, which means you are going to have to spend a bit of time cleaning this one up. But having the paintbrush tools is a better solution than the previous version, so happy days. Now, one last quick thing just to warn you about. If I jump back to the edit page and make any transform changes, I will lose my track. It's something people have wanted a resolution for some time. There still isn't one within 20, so if you make any transforms, you will lose your track and you have to come in and retrack. However, if you did forget to go and do that, don't worry, because when you go to export the video, if it's missing a track, it will automatically go through and retrack your magic masks so your export's ready to go. And that is the basics of using your magic masks. So now let's start having some fun with some more specific examples. And we're going to kick things off with this doggo. We're going to enable our overlay. We've already got our qualifier ready to go. I'm going to use better. Let's find our reference frame where the doggo is nicely in the frame. We'll give him a click, see what's being highlighted. Everything perfect. It's recognized that it's a dog and done all the work for us. So let's just hit track. And I'm going to not cut this so you can see this in real time, and we will amend it as or if we need to. So let's just kill some time. There you go. It's all ready to go. Let's turn off the overlay. So I want to get rid of the background. So I'm going to right click within my nodes as demoed earlier. We're going to add an alpha output, grab our blue to our blue, So we've got rid of our background and we've just got our doggo. And it's doing a pretty good job. There's a bit there where something comes in. So we'll need to paint that out. So I'll grab my little paintbrush tool. Let's make this a bit bigger. We're on the negative brush at the moment, so let's just get rid of that. Next frame. That one's all right. Next one, get rid of that. Can't see anything else much wrong with that. Maybe a bit there. No, I think that's just his colouring, actually. I think that's good. Oh, I think he's missing some there, so we're going to paint that in on that frame. Oh, no, it's just dirt. It's just a dirty dog. So we're pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to jump back over to the edit page. We're going to move this up one track. We're going to go to the generators and let's just grab the paper one because I like the paper one and put this underneath. And there we go. We've got our dog on our papery background. Now it doesn't really work. It looks a bit strange. There's loads of things you could do to tweak this, but I'm going to go to the color page. We're going to search for the drop shadow and drop that on that node. And it's just going to give him a bit of a shadow. Let's increase that. Maybe knock the blur down, knock the distance down. And there we go. Now we've got our little shadow. If we zoom in, it's actually doing quite a cool job. Let's actually turn the blur right down. You can see how good of a job it's actually doing. We've got all of the fur in the shadow and it looks really quite good. There's a bit of edging to our mask, so you might come down and let's try shrinking that, maybe just a smidge. Maybe add a bit of a post filter, see if that cleans things up. Let's clean the black, which will bring everything in. That looks better. We've lost that edging now. And there it is. We've got our doggo with his drop shadow, and it's working pretty well, even on this white background, which usually would show up all sorts of flaws. So that's not done a bad job. Now, there's, of course, other things that you can do when it comes to adding effects. We obviously added the drop shadow, but something you might want to use magic masks for is, of course, obscuring something maybe like a number plate or a device if you've got a screen showing, or probably the most common use case
is blurring someone's face.
So we've got this clip of this guy, he walks towards the car, then he gets in, and we need to blur his face. Now, if you try to track this from here, it might have some trouble because his face, it's unrecognizable anyway. So I'm going to come to the point we actually need this to exist, which is about here, and then we'll make a cut. A, that will make the magic mask's life easier, and B, it will make our lives easier as well. So let's jump over to the color page. We've got our overlay enabled. Let's just come through, find a good shot of his face, about here, and we'll give his hair a click, and it's going to pick up his hair. We'll give his face a click, and it's going to pick up a bit of everything. We're going to hold Alt, click on his suit just up here to get rid of that. We could have tidied up how it had selected his suit, by the way, by just clicking more on his suit, and it would have eventually picked it up, but we've just got rid of it entirely. So now it knows we only want his hair and his face. We're going to do a better track in this one, and then we'll hit track. And there we go. We've got a nice, very nice, tidy track. I haven't had to make any changes to that whatsoever. It's worked even when he kind of got outside the car like so. So let's turn off the overlay. Let's grab a mosaic blur. We'll drop that straight on this node here. We could then mess around with the blur settings to get this about right. We can come to the advanced settings and mess around with all of these, do what you need to do. I actually think that the mask needs to be a bit bigger because we do see a little bit of his regular face, which I don't like. I want it to obscure it more. So we're going to come down to our controls once again. Let's change this to grow and bump that up. That's pretty good. Let's also clean the white up, which will just push that out even more. And now we can't see anything at all. We've got a really nice mosaic-y blur. Next up, objects. Magic masks used to be split into person and object mode, and now it's all just one mode. But it does work just as well on things as it does on people. So we've got two quick examples set up here. And let's say you want to do something with this phone. So we're going to give it a click just the once. We'll enable our overlay. It's picked it up pretty easily. Let's do a better track this time and we'll track this. And it's done a really good job. Now, in this instance, we could maybe apply a mosaic once again, because let's say we want to hide the phone, or we can increase like the contrast of the phone because we wanted to highlight it, or maybe want to do something with the background. So I'm going to right click, add my node and add an outside node. And let's say we wanted to knock the contrast down maybe, and then we could bring the brightness up of the phone, maybe give it some more saturation, that sort of thing. Or if we jumped into the effects library, there is something in here called background defocus. You put this one on the original node with the magic mask itself, and it just blurs the background. Now this has kind of been designed to work better with a depth map, but you can see what it's doing. We get a real nice kind of blurry background. There's an issue in the fact that our hand is being picked up, which is not what we want. So we're going to click on this icon, which will take us back to our reference frame. And then let's do another little dot just on the hand. It's just picked up that finger for now. So let's do another one. There we go. It's picked up our entire hand now, which is pretty good. We'll retrack all of that. And now we've gone from this to this. So we can mess around with the foreground, the background independently, and control all of the blur. This one's another super quick example. We've got a watch. So we're going to give this a click. We'll enable our overlay, get the watch straps in. I think it's recognized all of that. So let's do a better track and we'll track this through. Once again, doing a really good job of making sure not to get the fingers, just the watch itself. Let's turn the overlay off. And let's just say in this example, we want the watch to stand out a bit more. So let's add a bunch of contrast. Maybe add some sharpness. This isn't the best way of adding sharpness, but I'm going to do it because it's super quick. There we go. We've done a super quick and easy job of making this watch stand out. Next up, text behind objects or even in between things. It's a common technique that people use. It looks pretty cool. I've used it in the past. Let's do it right now. There you go, to get an idea of what it looks like. But we're also going to combine this to show you how magic masks can also work with not just people and objects, but kind of really big things, the land, mountains, all that sort of stuff as well. So we've got this example here. We've got this kind of cliff. We've got these three lads, and we want to put some text kind of in between the background and all of this foreground area. So the first thing you need to do on the edit page, give your footage a click on the timeline, hold Alt or Option if you're on a Mac, and we're going to drag this up 2 layers. So we've got a video track 3 and a video track 1. So we've got our background and foreground, and we can put our text in the middle. Give the top one a click and then jump into the color page. Now this is easiest just to make sure you're on the right clip. Make sure you can see this timeline in the middle. If you don't, click on timeline in the top right hand corner to enable that, and make sure you've got this top one enabled. Then we're going to jump to our magic masks, toggle on our overlay. We'll just give this one guy a click first of all, and then the next one, and the next one. And then this big load of land here. And it's kind of roughly figured out what we're going for. We could maybe give it a couple more clicks just to really spat it out for the magic mask. Let's click better so we get a better track. And then just hit the track forwards and backwards. And it's picking up all 3 of these guys. It's doing a pretty good job there. And it's, of course, doing this landmass, which is nice and easy, really, because it doesn't really move. Then we'll turn off our overlay. We'll right-click within our nodes and then go to Add Alpha Output. Attach our blue to our blue. And it will look like nothing's changed. But actually what's happening is it's cutting this whole background out. And we're now seeing the background from our second clip. So if we go back to the edit page, then let's just grab a simple title. We could do an animated one. We could do a basic one. We could do anything at all. I'll just grab a standard text plus. Put this under here. Zoom this in. This now can come from underneath this background area, and it remains behind the guys, just like that. It's a pretty cool effect. And once again, the magic mask has done a really good job. Now, the last thing I want to mention about these new magic masks is they are really clever. They're really smart. They're much smarter, in my opinion, than the previous versions, but they are slower. So while it's running really quite well on this 5070, as mentioned, they are definitely slower than the previous versions. Now, I don't necessarily mind that because it is doing a better job. It's more accurate and it's easier to work with thanks to the paintbrush tools, but it definitely is slower. Now, if speed is of essence and you've got something really simple, you can actually jump back to use the old legacy magic mask. And I'll also show you how much faster it is. So going back to our Doggo, give them a click, we'll do better. We'll enable our overview and we'll hit track. And this one on my system is tracking. It goes up to usually about 20 FPS or so. Now let's reset that node. In the magic mask area, if you click on the 3 little dots, you can use the legacy object mask. Now this works very similar, but you have to do squiggly lines instead. And then if I hit track, go better so it's fair, track, you'll see this is going much, much faster. Like a lot faster, maybe 2 or 3 times quicker. Now, as mentioned, it's not quite as good. It will lose some of the edges a little bit more, bringing in slightly more things, so there may be just slightly more work to do. Although, as mentioned, again, it's not done a bad job at all. So there you go. I think that's about everything I wanted to tell you about these new magic masks within DaVinci Resolve Studio 20. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks once again to the sponsors Nvidia and scan.co.uk. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.